African adventure in 2012 joked a few memories from childhood. Stories about my grandfather heard in bits and pieces. Some narrated by my father, and some gleaned from the diaries I stumbled on. I listened to these tales between the age of 10 and 18. Most of it is true. For everything else, I uphold the term artistic license as my shield. KK or Krishna Nair held up a solid build of 6 feet 1 in his thick, dark skin. He also had the strength of an ox. The only time his thin lips succumbed to a smile was when he listened to stories told by his old friends. I saw his life-size portrait on entering my paternal grandparents' house for the first time in 1971. Clad in khakis, white cotton shirt and brown boots, he stood with his left hand covering the muzzle of a double-barreled gun. 2 dogs fiercely guarded his flanks. The starkness of the black and white picture added to the aura of the legendary hunter. At the top of the steep wooden staircase hung the head of a wild buffalo lost in time. On the nights that we lost power, the ghostly head illuminated by lightning gave me the chills. Those dogs were long dead, but I found the gun behind a door in the farthest room on the 2nd floor. When I gathered the courage to lift it without permission, the heavy gun slipped from my hands. The butt landed on my right foot, and before it could clatter to the ground, I grabbed it by the leather strap. I did not know if he kept it loaded at that time. I have met the man, KK's friend, who escaped the wrath of the tiger. Chekkilode Veetil Achyuthan Nair, or AC. He was KK's friend and companion on many hunting expeditions. AC had a sprawling house in Balusheri overlooking the gorge that bordered the jungles of Kerala and Karnataka. Men in Kerala rarely wore shirts. When my brother and I, along with 2 of my cousins, went to his house, AC proudly showed off the deep gorge marks on his back. Both shoulders had caved in. The tiger had taken a big share of AC. The last of his white hair was rapidly flushing down the whirlpool formation on top of his head. There were deep claw marks on both sides of his bald head. That's the bite marks of the tiger, said Achyuthan Nair. His eyes began to shine. If they were bigger, he would have narrated the whole incident with his eyes. No, start from the beginning. My brother begged and clambered on the long armrest of AC's easy chair. Achyuthan Nair leaned back and put his feet upon the other armrest and began his story.
This incident happened in 1942. It was at the height of the mountains when I visited your grandfather. He had sent a man 2 days before asking me over. A man-eater was roaming the foothills of Wayanad and had so far killed 2 men. I realized this hunting trip would be different. KK had killed many wild beasts, but this was my first time hunting a tiger. It was a day's trip to the foot of the mountain range. including the 4-hour bus ride and hike up to the foothills. By the time we reached the forest outpost, it was dark. I got into the log cabin while KK tied the dogs to the wooden bench. Where are you coming from? I could barely make out the man's features shaped by the oil lamp hung from the bamboo rafters. Far from Kozhikode, KK came in and stood to frame the door. Ah, you must be the hunter who has come to kill the tiger. The relief on the forest officer's face was brighter than the dim light. Yes, this is Krishna Nair and I am Achyuta Nair. I am Chatuti, one of the forest officers. We had a long ride. When can we retire? I was eager to get some rest. Raman will be coming soon to escort you. Chatuti poured 2 teas from the flask and placed the glasses on the high table. So, have you killed any tigers before? You name it, Krishna Nair had killed them. And I am there with him on every hunting trip. Really? Even tigers? The flickering lamp danced in Chatuti's eyes. The dogs uttered low growls. Soon, Raman came in to the cabin and took off his headcloth and hung it around his neck. I was waiting for you all evening. Captain asked me to bring you up as soon as you came in. KK got up, shouldered the gun, and untied the dogs. I followed him with the whole doll, carrying our clothes, ammunition, spare batteries for the torch, and tobacco. Raman lit the chotu from the embers in the brick stove, waved it briskly to fan the flames, and walked in front of us. Within shouting distance of the cabin, we came upon a clearing with a small building. This place was better lit, with Petromax lanterns hanging in the corners of the whitewashed building. Dimmer lights from inside cast shadows on thick window rugs on either side of a heavy brass-studded wooden door. Raman snuffed out the chotu and pulled the cord on the bell. I could not read the English inscription above the door.
Aye, you cannot read? My brother interrupted.
I still cannot read English.
AC crisscrossed his leg the other way. Go on with the story. One of the cousins leaned forward. When did you see the tiger? AC continued.
That was not until 3 days later. The building doubled as forest and police outpost. Our room was at the back of the building. After a meal of spicy chicken curry and patiri, we retired. The dogs were fed water and bones of goat, and I tied them to the wooden post outside our room. I snuffed out the oil lamp, rolled out a mat, and lay down. KK was already fast asleep on the metal cot. The mountains are cold at night, and it had started to rain heavily. I pulled the woolen blanket over my head, trying to shut out the sounds of thunder and fears in my head. It rained throughout the night. Whenever the dogs growled, I got up and looked out. The lightning lit up the forest around us. I could see nothing else. I woke up at the sounds of whistles and marching men. Through the wooden window bars, I counted 10 men in brown shorts with extra legroom, white undershirts, and red boots. Some of the brown socks looked tired and found pools around the angles. KK was sitting on the raised tiled veranda around the building with a cup of steaming tea. I walked out and sat next to him on my haunches. Did you meet the captain? Not yet. KK rolled the paper, licked the end sealed the tobacco, and set it on fire. After the parade, Raman came in with my tea. The captain would like to see you. He took us along. At the end of the clearing, there was a smaller building that I had missed entirely last night. It had 3 office rooms. We found the captain in the middle room, sitting behind an old desk covered with dusty brown files tied by red threads.
It's good of you to come immediately. I cannot stress the importance of this assignment.
Captain Velappa Menon sat straight without touching the wooden back.
I got your postcard. All I know is that there is a tiger on the loose and it is killing people.
KK sat on one of the chairs and crossed his legs. I moved nearer to the window and looked out. A thick fog covered the top of the mountain range. Everything else was dense green, wet with a million shades of green. I could hear gushing water and the sounds of birds. Certainly was God's own country.
The tiger was first sighted more than 2 weeks ago in Malayalam plantation. Raman can take you there. It has already killed 2 tapirs. We don't know if there were any more deaths. It takes days to get news around here, you know. And no one ventures out alone, and certainly not in night,
said Captain. I'll go up in the afternoon. KK took out his tobacco pouch.
The vegetation is very thick as you go up, combined with the fog. You cannot see the person standing next to you. I know. I don't have to tell you to be careful.
Captain Velappa Menon leaned back, perhaps gaining some confidence from seeing KK's calmness. They hunt at night. The fog comes in the morning. We will build a merchant near the water and wait, said KK. And we set off with Raman leading the way up the slippery slope of sliding mud and insects. Big droplets of water fell from trees and rock overhanging. I had wrapped the ammunition in 2 layers of waxed cloth. Keeping it dry made all the difference between life and death. Tigers do not venture out this far from the forest unless food is scarce or they have tasted human blood. This tiger has killed before. I'm sure of it. Have you heard anything, Raman? KK brought up the rear and led the dogs off the leash. Raman, mashette in hand, waved to the distance. No, I have not heard anything. The plantation is that way. Goats and sometimes dogs disappear. But it could be anything. Raman abandoned the steep path and climbed on the wider path with deep tracks. Lumber is transported this way. It takes a bit longer to reach there, but this is more open. Raman waited for us to reach his side. An hour later, the path took us to a big metal gate held together by stone posts and guarded by statues of lions. Raman unlatched the smaller gate and pushed it open. During the tapping season, a lorry from Manandawadi comes every week to transport the rubber sheets. After the hour spirit, only the caretaker is left behind with his family. The workers are mostly from neighboring villages. They live here during the tapping season. I knew that the season was almost ending, and an incident like this would drive away the workers. We had to find the tiger quickly. We walked to the top of the hill, and a colonial style building framed by a wide veranda grew into our view. 4 people were sitting on the steps and smoking beedies. When they saw us, they got up, threw away their smokes, and took off their headcloth. Did the captain send you? Yes. I am accompanying the hunter Krishnan Nair. Raman leaned the machete against the post. KK slipped the leash on the dogs and tied them to a post. He kept the gun against the brick wall and sat down on one of the cane chairs. What actually happened? Raman spoke in the local dialect. All 4 of them spoke at once. All I heard was, there were 10 of us. 1 died immediately. We brought the other one here by the time the captain sent for the doctor the next morning, and he had died. 2 of the tappers left the same night. 2 others waited for daylight, and they too left. The people explained, we have not gone into the field for 4 days. We need a live goat. I will tell you where to tie it. We also need to build a marchand near the place where the killings took place. I found out the tasks to Raman and the others. It is too late now to build a marchand. We can do it early tomorrow, the tallest tapper offered. KK grunted and asked for the dogs to be fed. The next morning, we set out at 5. There was nothing evident around the bushes where the tiger dragged one of the tappers. 2 men clambered up adjacent trees and started building 2 marchands at varying heights. They cut bamboo and fashioned ropes from bamboo reeds. The lower marchand was the height of about 2 tall men and was long enough for 1 person to lie down. They spread a few coconut leaves and husks to soften it. 2 others came with the bleating goat by mid-afternoon. Raman went back with the men, promising to be back before nightfall. I tied the goat at the end of the clearing in clear sight of KK's gun. Climbing up to the margin with a torch, ammunition and food was much harder than I thought. Now it was a long wait. I hoped it would not rain heavily. The dense foliage should provide some cover.
My brother was fast asleep in AC's lap. He called for his wife, who took him inside. Let's finish the story now, my cousin said.
We stayed on the margin for 3 days. I was sure this was a waste of time. The tiger was never going to come back. We heard the goat bleating the second night. I shone the torch all around, but saw or heard nothing. We took turns keeping watch. I knew KK would not return without taking at least 1 shot at the tiger. We continued the watch and waited for the 3rd day. Every morning and evening, Raman and the men would come with supplies, making noises all the way to scare even the leaves. On the 3rd day evening, I climbed down to relieve myself. KK was sitting in his perch, cleaning and oiling the gun. I walked past the goat and aimed at the tree with the broadest trunk. Everything happened so quickly that even now I cannot put it in the right sequence. The goat bleated alarmingly and started running around, trying to break free. I was halfway into my pee. KK jumped down from his perch, Even before the dog started barking wildly, bushes behind the tree rustled. An orange shade sprang out and knocked me down. The god's bleeding was snuffed out. I turned around to see the tiger crouching behind the bloody goat. KK already had the rifle on his shoulder. I locked eyes with the tiger. I backed up to realize that the tree had stopped me. The tiger jumped and hooked its paws into my shoulder. I did not remember anything after that.
All of us were sitting up now. I could feel the hair on my hand separating itself from each other. It may have been the chill in the wind, or I don't know. I shivered and wrapped my hands around the knees. Did Grandpa find the tiger?
After much coaxing, KK told the rest of the story by my hospital bed. The tiger had pounced and pinned me against a tree. It seems the tiger had propped me up with its claws buried in my saging shoulders. The tiger was chewing on my head and had it almost entirely in its mouth. KK had cocked both barrels but did not shoot for fear of killing me. The tiger released my head for a moment. Probably it gaped or was taking a deep breath before the final bite. KK shot it in the shoulder. The tiger dropped me with a roar and turned to face KK. The dogs were barking and running around the tiger. KK emptied the last barrel, this time in the chest. The tiger dropped, got up, and ran into the bushes. I was in the hospital for 3 months. The men found the carcass deep in the jungle after 5 days of searching. The tiger had covered a lot of ground, even with its wounds. I had already been dead for a couple of days by then. Even now, writing about the tale gives me goosebumps.
One question remained in my head. Did Grandpa ever miss a target? But I will let my memory of him remain untamed.